surprise when it comes to how those premiums get calculated on a year-to-year basis.
What types of things can factor into where those premiums end up in any given year?
Yeah, so there's something called IRMA, which stands for the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. And long story short, they base your Medicare premiums on your combined income, but sometimes that you don't really think about items that fall into your income. So let's say you raised your family in this home, and somewhere in the Northeast you end up selling it, and you end up making more than $500,000 on it. Or maybe it's a parent's property or a big stock or a big retirement package. You can actually see your Medicare premiums take a severe adjustment. And that's almost never income that people are thinking about. Like, no, I sold my home. Why should that factor into my Medicare? Well, it can in certain circumstances. And so it is just one area that we look at to say, hey, this is a surprise because it's a tax that nobody faces until they turn 65.
Our guide this month is titled Retirement Tax Efficiency, and there are two different ways you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by going to ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That phone number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Enjoy the sun-splashed beaches on St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and wake up every day to 75-degree temperatures, sand between your toes, and the finest cuisine anywhere in the Caribbean. The U.S. Virgin Islands is more popular today than it's ever been in its history, making it one of the most popular travel destinations around. This summer, heat is upon us, but the holiday season will be here before you know it. So make your plan to avoid the cold and enjoy the most fantastic spot in the Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com right now and explore their incredible vacation packages today. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip right now. That's visitusvi.com.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you here on a Friday. And overnight and still into this morning in a number of cases, a massive, probably the largest cloud computing outage in history took place. And we're starting to get some information about exactly what happened, and we're here to fill you in on what's the deal, yo. And here's what it looks like. There is a company by the name of CrowdStrike. You may have heard of them, you may not have, but they are a major, probably one of the 3 or 4 biggest cybersecurity firms in the world. And they have a number of different products that they offer, but one of them, and this is according to someone who I know who actually understands this stuff, so I'm playing the game of telephone, and if anyone in IT is listening and I get something wrong, just bear with me, but this is my understanding of it. Basically, what happened is one of the products that CrowdStrike offers is something called an endpoint protection platform. And what that means in layman's terms, it's something that operates at the most basic level of the computer infrastructure and what's called the kernel of the operating system, basically the part of the operating system that tells everything else what to do and directs processes so they don't get in the way of each other. And this endpoint protection platform, it operates in there pretty much so that before any malicious software can even run on your computer, it detects it and says, no, you're not going to be allowed to run, which is why it exists in the kernel. And again, kind of the most basic level of the operating system. What apparently happened was not a malicious cyber attack by North Korea or China or Russia or anyone else. Like it wasn't that. CrowdStrike apparently pushed what's called a content update to their endpoint protection platform that resides in the kernel. And a content update can be a number of different things, but the most common thing that I understand is, hey, when there's a new type of malware that is detected out there in the wild, that content gets added to the endpoint protection platform so that if it detects that code on the server or on the computer, it says, nope, you're not going to run, do not pass go, do not collect $200, not going to happen. And what is unclear at this point is what exactly went wrong, but CrowdStrike pushed some kind of update to this part of their system, and for whatever reason, it didn't agree with how everything else was supposed to work, and so pretty much any system that uses this CrowdStrike platform that automatically updated to the new version of this software died.
Just kind of didn't work this morning.
Didn't work this morning.
Yeah. First heard about this, I believe, in Australia. Is where it
Those
first
poor
started.
Aussies, they're the first ones
Yeah.
on the side of the international
I
date
know.
line, and they get hit with everything
They
like
do.
this.
Yeah, we were all waiting on Y2K 24 years ago to see how it went in Australia, and we're all feeling the impact of the CrowdStrike outage over there before everybody else. But, I mean, everything from airlines, banks, trading platforms. I haven't seen many social media sites down, but just about anything you can imagine.
Can't
has
get into
been
the Social
impacted.
Security Administration website, as an
Okay.
example.
Okay. Yeah. So government websites, media outlets went offline because they couldn't get their programs queued up and their systems working in studios. So it was like Chuck described, the single largest, as far as we can tell, outage of this sort in history, and we're slowly coming back online now. I think most sites that I'm visiting now are functioning and working properly, but
Back end, a lot of
might be a while.
stuff still isn't. I have a buddy of mine I have a number who work in IT, and I texted one of them this morning. I said, hey, is anything going on as a result of this? He goes, we have over 400 CrowdStrike customers. It is a complete mess, and we're probably not going to have everything done until at least the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, as another example, Mass General Brigham has canceled all elective and non-emergency procedures because their back-end system, Epic, is currently down. Now, Epic is not down across all hospitals. I have another buddy who works at another place who says, yeah, we use it, and it's fine for us. So, again, it depends on whether your particular system auto-updated with this new kernel or did not. So, this is the stuff that people are sorting through at the moment. But again, does not appear malicious. Like, CrowdStrike basically took responsibility. It's like, yup, we screwed up. We pushed something that we shouldn't have, and that's our problem.
Let the intern into the systems again. Our bad.
I will say, imagine that you're the guy that did this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
on a Friday.
On a Friday, it's like, do I get overtime for the weekend? No, you don't. No, you're not getting overtime. I'm sorry. Why don't you just sit back and let everyone else handle this at this point?
Here's my question. Are auto dealers impacted? I was trying to find...
I know they've already been struggling with the CDS issue, right?
You do wonder if auto dealers, which basically couldn't confirm appointments or sales prices or just about anything on their own inventory of cars over the last month, are now down due to this as well. But I do want to talk kind of bigger picture, Chuck, because this type of event, whether it's malicious or not, as it was not in this case here, seemingly malicious, these events do occur, and we are more and more reliant on centralized systems that are connected to each other and are very different from the IT systems of the 1990s, for example, where there were all sorts of problems and slowness, but generally speaking, a problem at Bank of America wasn't likely to translate to a problem at Wells Fargo, whereas in this case, everything was impacted. How are companies going to start treating this, and governments going to start treating this type of thing? I mean, for a lot of companies, for example, they will intentionally diversify geographically in the case of natural disasters and weather outages. Do you start seeing some form of system diversification among big companies to say, this type of event? I mean, I have no idea, but imagine how much money this is going to lose American Airlines, for example, right? Like, how many flights did they have to cancel? How much is it going to screw up their entire scheduling system for the rest of this week? Do you start, I don't know, disconnecting systems or not disconnecting systems, but diversifying out of single systems that are all impacted by the same issues at some point?
My gut tells me no.
Right.
Because it still is probably in most cases cheaper for them to deal with these one-offs when they come up than to invest in redundant systems and train people on multiple systems that would otherwise be operating. So I would be surprised if companies do anything different as a result of this. I think they might look at just other vendors like, oh, should we switch from CrowdStrike to someone else who does this, a Powell Alto Networks or someone like that? I don't know. But the idea that, I mean, first of all, you can't really run parallel systems on a single computer.
No.
In this case. It's kind of one or the other. You're not going to have two forms of endpoint protection that are running on a computer because it just doesn't work like that.
And likewise, it's not as though you have many choices of operating systems today.
No, so I think ultimately this is the world that we have chosen. And I don't think it's changing as a result of this is the unfortunate thing, because you mentioned, let's use airlines as an example. American or Delta or whoever it is, okay, they've got a whole bunch of cancellations and rebookings that they have to do, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how much it costs them. Let's say that it's $100 million, just as an example. Well, to get a backup vendor, then to train all these people on how that one works, it might be $50 million a year. And they say, look, we've been running these systems for 5 years, and this is the first time it happened.
Sure.
No, it's not cost effective for us to do that. We'll take our chances. I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying it's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a far cry, too, between airlines and what our military is doing, for example.
Can I tell you something funny about the airline thing?
Yeah.
I just got an email from Delta that I'll read it to you just because it was, again, pretty important, quite honestly. The operation of your flight may have been disrupted due to an ongoing global outage, blah, blah, blah. Here are the steps that you can take. You can stay on your current flight, change to a different flight, or cancel your trip and apply the value towards a future flight. Mike, I don't even have a flight booked on Delta.
They have no idea.
I don't even. I have there's a trip confirmation number. I plugged it into Delta's website. Not there, actually. So I'm trying, and it came from Delta. My first thought is, okay, is this someone trying to take advantage of this scam? And so I checked the email, and I'm like, no, it actually did come from Delta. But the booking that they reference doesn't show up anywhere on Delta's website. So they don't even know that I'm supposed to be on a plane or not right now.
Not encouraging.
So that's what's going on at the moment. Again, if you're seeing these impacts, you might continue to over the course of the day, but this is again, it's being described as the single biggest cloud computing outage that we've ever seen. And the good news, not malicious. CrowdStrike said, yep, we blew it, but it's going to take a little bit of time to sort this out. Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the electric grid when we return.
There's only one show that follows Wall Street's continued volatility. Keep it here all morning long on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Together, let's honor all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Register or donate now at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
An unexpected nursing home stay can be devastating to your savings. Call Cushing & Dolan today and request their new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Protect your assets from the nursing home and maintain your wealth. Call right now. 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Many of us have retirement savings that are held in tax-deferred accounts like 401ks and traditional IRAs. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. A heavy reliance on tax-deferred savings has significant implications, such as facing large tax bills during retirement. If you've been diligent about saving money, you might find yourself in the same situation after you retire. Our new guide this month is called Retirement Tax Efficiency. It outlines ways to develop a plan that helps you manage your retirement income and limit your tax liability, putting you in a more advantageous position for a secure financial future. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, and you can also request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Enjoy the sun-splashed beaches on St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and wake up every day to 75-degree temperatures, sand between your toes, and the finest cuisine anywhere in the Caribbean. The U.S. Virgin Islands is more popular today than it's ever been in its history, making it one of the most popular travel destinations around. This summer, heat is upon us, but the holiday season will be here before you know it. So make your plan to avoid the cold and enjoy the most fantastic spot in the Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com right now and explore their incredible vacation packages today. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip right now. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mike, this piece of the Wall Street Journal, it is titled, Get Ready to Pay More for Less Reliable Electricity. Mike, why am I going to pay more for something that's not always working as often as it used to be?
Because our systems, generally speaking, across the nation, and this varies greatly from city to city and state to state, are old, antiquated, and need massive investments that have been deferred for decades. These are heavily regulated companies who, by and large, have asked for rate increases over the years, many of which have been denied, and so companies do what you would do in that situation, which is defer maintenance on things, and more and more often we are seeing outages because of it. The Wall Street Journal does a piece here where they speak to an individual in Indiana. Moved from Indiana to Detroit area about a year ago, has since had 9 power outages, the longest one lasting 16 hours. And over the same period, the utility company has raised electricity rates and sought approval for another increase at the same time. And I think that's what we are going to experience here is more and more outages, more and more brownouts or blackouts, while rates continue to climb due to severe deferred maintenance as well as more dramatic swings in weather patterns.
And this also comes on the back of you've got these data centers that are popping up for artificial intelligence now at this point. That's it's the hot new thing that you need to just process for. And those are just absolutely monster data hogs when you look at the sheer amount of power that they consume. If you look at NVIDIA, and I'm going to use them just because they're the biggest name out there. If you look at their new chips that they have here, each GPU that they have, their H100 GPUs, consume 700 watts of power. To put that in perspective, if you're doing the math at home, and I'm sorry for doing math on the radio. I never like to do it, but we have to now. It works out to 16.8 kilowatt hours per day that ends up using. On a monthly basis, that's 504 kilowatt hours that you are using.
For a chip.
For one chip. The average American household uses between 400 and 600 kilowatt hours a month. So one of these NVIDIA chips, uses the same amount of power as the average American household. They are expecting to sell 3.5 million of those this year. That is a huge increase in potential power, especially because these get concentrated in small areas. It's not like, we're going to sell 3.5 million and 10,000 are going to be in Massachusetts, 10,000 are going to be... No. It's wherever the data center is, that's where they're going. And where are they building data centers right now, Mike? Texas. Who's having power problems right now?
Texas. I'm going to take the opposite side of this for a minute, Chuck. I agree this is going to be a massive surge and drain on the power system, these companies looking for electricity. I'm going to take the optimistic view here and say that for the first time in a very long time, there's going to be an appropriate value placed on electricity generation and power grids. Right? Like, this is a sector of our economy that has effectively not been valued properly because we kind of view electricity as a human necessity at this stage. Is that fair to say? Like, legislations have regulated the prices that can be charged, and therefore companies haven't invested heavily. There's been pushback against nuclear power, and in plenty of other examples that I can point out, once an appropriate economic value is put on an asset, it can actually lead to improvements in quality.
The problem with electricity is that the time it takes to make those improvements is measured in
long. Yeah.
Mike, if we have problems now, it's not going to be fixed for decades.
I'm with you there.
Like, you talk to anyone who's tried to build I know it sounds like I have friends who do everything, but it's because I do have friends who do everything.
Mr. Popular.
Humble brag.
I know. It's not even a humble brag. It's a brag.
It's a brag.
Like, I have friends who do everything.
Yeah.
I have a buddy of mine who spent the last 10 years doing mid-sized solar installations. Not, the giant solar farms, not rooftop, but kind of the in-between size where, maybe like rooftops on a Costco or something like that. Except you'd be doing them out in the middle of Vermont. And the big thing is if you're talking about trying to get the connection from a new project, just the connection from a new project to existing infrastructure, 5 years minimum. And that's for simple, fairly manageable things, not, hey, we need to build a nuclear power plant because we don't have enough power for Texas.
So I'm right there with you, Chuck. And I do not know the intricacies of building a nuclear power plant or a commercial-grade solar
It's hard.
array.
We talked about how they make nuclear power the other day, where you come in early in the morning with that knife to split the atom.
Butter knife.
Yeah, it's challenging.
It's hard.
My point would be, I don't think legislatures are suddenly going to start selling their constituents' power to Google at the same rates that they are paying, and then suddenly experiencing more and more blackouts and brownouts because, hey, we need to run these artificial intelligence models. That just does not seem like a method to get you reelected. And therefore, these companies are going to be desperate for electricity. And it's not going to be quick. It's not going to happen overnight. But if they truly see an economic value to these artificial intelligence programs, then Apple, Google, NVIDIA, and others will move mountains to ensure that they have a reliable stream of electricity. And that does not mean that it'll happen overnight. But things that may have taken 2 decades in the past because it was heavily regulated and going through all sorts of bureaucratic nightmares might move a little bit faster if you've got the likes of Apple, Google, and NVIDIA greasing the wheels.
I guess I'm
not as optimistic. That's fair.
Well, no, like here's let's say that I'm Google and I'm building a data center.
Yeah.
And wherever it is comes to me and says, hey, we're not going to give you the power that you want.
Yep.
First of all, I don't really think it works like that. Like on the demand side, I don't think that's how it generally works. But I've never built something that's required a ton of power, so I don't know. But the second piece is, hey, if there's one thing these companies are good at, it's lobbying.
Yeah.
They're going to get exactly what they want. And I'm sorry, that's kind of how it's been. You're going to try to raise our rates or not get... Okay, well, fine.
We'll see the first time during 120 degrees when they give power to Google's power centers instead of air conditioning in Texas. See how that works.
It's happened before.
Yeah, see how it works.
Take a quick break. Wall Street Watch is next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
An unexpected nursing home stay can be devastating to your savings. Call Cushing & Dolan today and request their new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Protect your assets from the nursing home and maintain your wealth. Call right now. 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Are you retired like me and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the Tax Relief Line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
The United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Enjoy the sun-splashed beaches on St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and wake up every day to 75-degree temperatures, sand between your toes, and the finest cuisine anywhere in the Caribbean. The U.S. Virgin Islands is more popular today than it's ever been in its history, making it one of the most popular travel destinations around. This summer, heat is upon us, but the holiday season will be here before you know it. So make your plan to avoid the cold and enjoy the most fantastic spot in the Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com right now and explore their incredible vacation packages today. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip right now. That's visitusvi.com.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about techniques that can help protect your assets from long-term care expenses last minute. Todd, what happens to your home when a spouse enters a nursing home and no planning has been done? And is it different for single individuals?
Yeah, so very good question, and the answer is yes, it is different. So let's talk about the spouse first. When you're married, if you have a spouse living in the home, regardless of the value of the home, as long as it's located in Massachusetts, it's non-countable and it's non-lienable. So it's really, truly protected. Now, don't leave it that way. Make sure you put it 100% in the name of the healthy spouse after that happens. However, for a single individual, it's a little different. As long as the value doesn't exceed $1,071,000, there's a number that changes every year. It goes up. Then it would be countable if it's worth more than that. If it's worth less than that, and you check a box that you intend to return home, it's non-countable, but it's lienable. But so what? Getting on the Medicaid at the Medicaid rate is better than paying privately.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details last-minute Medicaid eligibility. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can simply request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets are in negative territory as millions across the globe grapple with what some are deeming the largest IT outage in history, where banks, hospitals, airlines, and many other businesses are dealing with outages. At the moment, the Dow is down by nearly 0.75% or 284 points. S&P 500 is off by about 0.25% or 15 points, and the NASDAQ down by 0.33%. Russell 2000 selling off nearly 2% today. 10-year Treasury yield is up by 4 basis points, now at 4.23%. And crude oil is down by 0.75%, trading just above $82 a barrel. CrowdStrike shares down 10% as a result of the major outage, where a single update from the cybersecurity software company caused worldwide outages for users of Microsoft devices. Microsoft, by the way, is only down by 0.5%. Meanwhile, Netflix reported second quarter results after yesterday's close, where the streaming giant said it continued to add new customers in the last quarter, adding just over 8 million new subscribers. Revenue increased 17% from a year ago, and the company also hiked the low end of its forecast for full-year revenue growth. Netflix shares down by 0.5%. Elsewhere, American Express posted earnings ahead of the open, reporting a jump in a quarterly profit. The credit card company also upped its full-year earnings forecast. However, revenues fell short of analyst expectations. Amex shares down by 4%. And by the way, Paul LaMonica of Barron's, he's going to join us at 11:45 to talk further on Amex. Plug Power down by 10% after the green energy company said it plans to sell $200 million worth of stock. And ARM Holdings was upgraded by Morgan Stanley to overweight from equal weight, where the bank said the chip maker's products are fundamentals to the successful emergence of Edge AI. ARM shares are up by 3%. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about the cost of housing in the Boston metro area. A piece in the Boston Globe today citing data from the Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard University, as well as the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, shows that when you look at the Boston metro area, it is one of the 10 most expensive places in the country to buy a home. And specifically, a buyer needed annual income of $217,000 a year to purchase the median-priced home in that region in the first quarter of the year. That ranked Boston 10th amongst major metro areas.
I have a question. Can you think of anything where Massachusetts and the Boston area in particular is not the most expensive, among the top 10 most expensive places in the country to do something?
I mean, no, generally when you have a high cost of living, it spreads everywhere because the biggest cost that most companies have is labor, and labor costs kind of go up because in order to, attract labor, you have to pay more, and then, it's why even a McDonald's in Boston pays higher wages than a McDonald's in South Bend, Indiana.
Yeah, it's we have an enormously high cost of living here, and let's be clear about something. The income that you need to bring in to be able to afford a home, which they estimate to be the magic number, sits at $217,000 now here in the Boston area in order to buy a home. The growth in housing prices, the growth in the required income to buy a home, while outrageously high in Massachusetts, is high across the country, and the percentage changes have been massive. It just stands out here because it was already at a quite high level, and now it's even crazier. Median price of a single-family home in the Boston metro area soared 40% over the last 5 years. Average wages obviously have not kept up with that anywhere in the country, and so you have this, I think, recurring message from anyone you talk to, which is general pessimism about housing affordability across the country.
So when you look at this, the unfortunate thing is I don't see any sea change happening that's going to suddenly make home prices more affordable for folks.
What about all those office buildings that are being converted to apartments, Chuck?
There actually are a few in New York that they're doing that on now.
They talked about it in Boston, too. There's a big tax incentive to do it. But again, great, I'll have more housing available in 6 years when they get around to that.
It's fine. You still need it 6 years from now.
You do, yeah. Yeah, you do. But the article here, at least, we're very oftentimes critical of arguments when it comes to how to improve housing. And I'm going to read the last paragraph in here by, who wrote this piece? Larry Edelman? Larry Edelman from the Boston Globe. But unless local Massachusetts officials ease zoning regulations and allow more construction of housing, the dream of owning a home will go unrealized for too many of us. I don't hear any nonsense in here about housing vouchers, about subsidizing or credits or tax incentives. It's a very clear point that the author is trying to make that I would echo, which is if you want the simplest, not the simplest because it's hugely controversial, but if you want the economically sound way of decreasing the price of housing, build more housing.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, the IRS finally issued final guidance on what the heck you have to do if you inherit an IRA from someone other than a spouse. It's 260 plus pages. We haven't gone through all of it, but some people have. And so we'll tell you, for the final time, we think, hey, here's the guidance that the IRS has if you are inheriting money inside of an IRA. That is coming up next.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Enjoy the sun-splashed beaches on St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and wake up every day to 75-degree temperatures, sand between your toes, and the finest cuisine anywhere in the Caribbean. The U.S. Virgin Islands is more popular today than it's ever been in its history, making it one of the most popular travel destinations around. This summer, heat is upon us, but the holiday season will be here before you know it. So make your plan to avoid the cold and enjoy the most fantastic spot in the Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com right now and explore their incredible vacation packages today. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip right now. That's visitusvi.com.
Tax-efficient retirement planning starts with taking proactive steps to minimize your tax burden while you still can. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and as you approach retirement, it's crucial to consider the impact of taxes on your future finances. This month, our new guide is called Retirement Tax Efficiency. In it, we cover a variety of key areas from Social Security and life insurance to capital gains tax rates and Medicare brackets. The guide is designed to help you build a solid retirement financial strategy that limits your tax liability. Get your free copy of our new guide, Retirement Tax Efficiency, by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can also request the guide online by visiting our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Changes to Medicaid occur almost every year, and if you're not informed, your assets could be at risk, especially if you or your spouse need nursing home care. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law, and their new guide is called Last-Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll help you understand the Medicaid process, which is critically important if you're retired or getting close to retiring. The guide has important information regarding numerous strategies that can protect your assets from the nursing home. It could be your primary home, a vacation home, or any rental property you may own. You've worked hard to achieve wealth, so don't take chances when it comes to protecting it. Get your copy of Cushing & Dolan's brand new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Call right now, 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange has built an incredible partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We can't wait to take part in this year's DAV 5K, set for Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence on Castle Island. And registration's now open. You can help our great American heroes by walking, running, or simply making a donation. Your gifts will support services such as the Veteran Advancement Program, which offers permanent and affordable housing opportunities for veterans and their dependents. Learn more at DAV5K.Boston. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
The IRS has finally issued final guidance on what inheritors of IRAs who are not spouses have to do with the money. And the reason this matters is that back in 2019, Congress passed a law at the end of the year called the Secure Act. And as part of the Secure Act, it bumped up the age for required minimum distributions, but it also said, hey, if you are inheriting an IRA from someone other than a spouse, you have 10 years to take the money out of your account in most cases. There are a few exceptions. We're not going to get into those right now.
I can do it.
Okay.
It's mainly minor children of the account holder, chronically ill individuals, people who are permanently disabled, or confusing language here, but those who are not more than 10 years younger. So if you're within 10 years of the person who died or older and not a spouse, then the 10-year rule may not apply to you.
And so no one has really known, hey, does that mean that I still have to take money out during each of those 10 years? Do I have to take 10% a year? Like the IRS never specified any of it. And what they did for the last 4 years, including 2024, is they basically punted on it. They said, you know what, we're going to waive any potential penalties. We're not going to require anything this year. But it was always a 1-year stopgap.
To be fair, Congress wrote a crap law here and could have fixed it.
They did, but how long? Like, does it take you 5 years to figure out what to do with it?
Yes, you're the IRS.
No, dude, what? Like, Mike, you and I could sit down in one meeting and be like, okay, here's what it's going to be.
I'm with you.
I mean, they're making the rules. Like,
hear you.
It is what it is.
I know.
So, here's the deal. If the person you are inheriting that account from was of RMD age, meaning they had to take out a required minimum distribution, then you, as the non-spousal inheritor, have to take out a required minimum distribution each year as well.
Based on your age.
Correct. You do not need to go back and do so for the previous 5 years if you already inherited that. They said you're good on that, but you do need to for the remaining time in that 10-year period. Also,
starting in 2025, not this year.
Correct, starting next year. Also, let's say that someone passed away in 2020 and you've already gone through 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, those 5 years. You have to do so for the next 5 years, and then that 10-year period still ends. So you don't get like a new 10-year period that starts now. It still is the original 10-year period. You would just have to take 5 years of RMDs in that situation based on your age.
Okay.
It's complicated. If the person that passed away was below RMD age, then you do not need to do so in each of the 10 years, but you still need to evacuate the account within a 10-year period.
I still have some lingering questions here that I have to research. One of them is, what about like a double inherited IRA? Somebody died in 2017, left the account to their son. The son died in 2024, and the grandson now owns that IRA. I don't know what rules apply to that individual.
Let's see. Let me see if
we don't need to answer that question on the fly.
No.
Here is my point. This is really complicated. These things used to be treated as a estate planning tool, right? These things used to be treated as a way for generations to pass on wealth to next generation and defer or eliminate taxes through a Roth IRA, because remember, these same rules do apply to Roth IRAs in terms of emptying out those accounts. There's a lot of trick stuff here.
Can I add one more complicating thing, actually?
Please do.
And this is from somebody by the name of Jeff Levine, who is a CPA that I follow on Twitter.
Of course you follow a CPA on Twitter.
I follow a number
one
of
of three
CPAs
people
on
that
Twitter.
follow him?
Yeah, well, he focuses on like tax issues surrounding retirement. So it's and this is his like interpretation here. If you have an inherited Roth IRA from a non-spouse, if the only inherited retirement account that you have is a Roth, then you don't have an RMD from it that year. If you inherit just $1 of traditional in addition to the Roth, then you have to do an RMD from the Roth each year as well.
That is so dumb and complicated. So dumb and complicated. Here's the overarching point is the Congress and IRS have now made this one of the more complicated issues facing retirees and just individuals who aren't retirees who inherit one of these things. The penalties, while they made them not quite as severe, are still quite severe at 25% of what you don't take. It used to be 50%, so that's a nice little change there in terms of the penalties. But if you do not plan for this type of thing. It can really mess you up. Here's the other complexity that's always been the case, but is now more of an issue. Think about ages when people oftentimes... What's the median life expectancy for someone who made it to retirement, Chuck? Is it like 82?
Sure. I don't know.
Somewhere in there. Like median life expectancy somewhere in there. That puts your kids around their highest potential earning income years that they've ever had. And all of a sudden you inherit this account that must be washed out within 10 years. And so I've been working with people on this to say, well, I think I'm going to retire in 5 years, so maybe I don't take too much out now. I was going to split it into tenths, but maybe we really try and shove the majority of the income in the last 5 years because I don't think I'll be working, but maybe I will. What if I'm getting a pension? When do I start Social Security based on this? Could this impact my Medicare tax brackets, my IRMA? Like all sorts of new complicated issues that quite frankly didn't really exist prior to 2019 now do with retirement accounts. And so if you are facing the unfortunate loss of a loved one who left you money in this format, or if you are building out your legacy plan and it includes retirement assets, I urge you to probably not read through the 200 pages because I think you'll just leave yourself drooling on the floor, because that's where I would be if I had to read through the entire 200 pages that the IRS put out. But speak with an expert on this. Speak with a tax planner. Speak with a financial planner on how to utilize these things in your best interest to ensure that they remain part of your overall successful strategy and don't end up being a burden in some way, shape, or form through tax penalties that you could have foreseen. If you would like to talk to folks at the Armstrong Advisory Group and work through what this might mean for you, the phone number is 800-393-4001 to talk to a real-life human being here at the Armstrong Advisory Group. We work with our clients on these types of complex issues every day. You can request a call back by going to our website at armstrongadvisory.com, but if you want to reach somebody right now, phone number is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Mike, apparently a wind turbine blade that was installed off the coast of Nantucket in January has broken. Part of it, it's unclear exactly what caused the problem, but part of it sheared off, and it now is sitting just at the relatively shallow bottom of the ocean. It's caused some problems on Nantucket as well with some pieces of fiberglass washing up on the beach. People are a little bit unsure of, hey, how safe is it to swim in the area? Is this going to happen again? Blah, blah, blah. Your thoughts?
Must have been one massive bird.
That's...
Seems like the start of a Jurassic Park movie or something.
What's bigger than an albatross? Yes.
What collided with that windmill? So my takeaway is this is growing pains. Hopefully this is not something that frequently occurs. It shut down people's very expensive vacations on Nantucket. And I don't mean to be too much of a this or that. You only have two choices. But you know what sounds a lot worse than some fragments of a windmill blade showing up on Nantucket beaches? The BP oil spill sounds a lot worse to me. I would prefer. I would take the windmill blades.
Well, look, they both suck. But I will make the point that, look, every time that we have, a car accident or this and that, we don't say, well, let's get rid of cars. But you get these anti-wind people who say, oh, this is why we can't use wind power. It's just... no, there's a reasonable case to say, hey, we've got to do better than this, and we've got to improve the technology so that this doesn't happen as frequently. Again, I don't know how many times I've heard about this happening, before this.
Put a deep-sea drilling rig right off the coast of Nantucket. They'll change their tune right quick.
Well, to be fair, that would be dumb, too. There's probably not even any
oil
there.
Oil there. I get it.
But whenever it comes to, clean energy, it's like, oh, gee, something bad happened. This is why we can't use it. Meanwhile, bad stuff happens with conventional stuff all the time. I mean, how many, train derailments do we have with, oil? And it's like, oh, do you remember the one in Ohio a couple of years ago with, all the hazmat stuff?
Yeah, I do.
And we look at it, and no one says, oh, gee, we should stop using trains. It's more, hey, how do we improve this so it doesn't happen again? Let's not make these mistakes anymore. So that's kind of the point that I make on this, is you get these anti-wind advocates who are like, oh, they haven't finished the project yet, and this is already happening. Who knows what else is out there? When really it's like, no, like bad stuff happens with everything. We got to figure out how to make sure that it doesn't anymore. Not like, no, this is not a reason to not use wind. If we did that every time something bad happened, I probably, like, we wouldn't have airplanes or
We're only
cars
talking about this because it drifted onto shore at a place where people pay $15,000 a week for a vacation. Let's be clear about this.
It's true. It's true. So that is what is going on there. The turbine broke, and it's not good. Like, let's be clear, it's bad. But let's
put it in
keep
context,
perspective a little bit. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, hour 2 of the Financial Exchange, we're talking Netflix earnings and a whole lot more then.
Building a solid financial strategy is a core element to enjoying your retirement years. That's why you need advice that you can count on. At the Armstrong Advisory Group, we understand the challenges of positioning your assets to help you maintain your wealth over time. Our goal is to offer advice that is both suitable and in your best interest. When you hire one of us, you hire all of us so you can be comfortable knowing that every advisor in our firm is dedicated to helping you create a realistic plan for your later years. Visit us today at armstrongadvisory.com and sign up for a free, no-obligation planning session. Click the Get Started button at the top right corner of the homepage, and you can select the day and time that works best for you. Go to armstrongadvisory.com and let us help you secure your financial future. That's armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you retired like me and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the Tax Relief Line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is all about retirement tax efficiency. Mike, let's go through some of these items that people typically hit in retirement as key drivers of income. Let's start with Social Security and its taxation.
Yeah, so for only about 40% of American households is Social Security actually taxable, but it's a pretty low threshold where it does become taxable. There's a combined income calculation they put through, and up to 85% of your Social Security benefits can be taxed depending on your income.
Other places that retirees typically generate income, interest from bank accounts and CDs and things along those lines, how is that typically taxed? Any changes for retirees?
Yeah, so no real change other than all of your other income is going to adjust, and so the rate at which you pay might change, but you're going to be taxed federally as well as by your state if it has an interest or income tax on the interest generated from something like a CD. Whereas if you're generating it from some other tool, such as a U.S. Treasury bond, that interest is not taxable, at least at the state level.
What about when we look at IRAs and Roth IRAs? People have been contributing, but now they're finally withdrawing once they retire.
Once again, in most states, federal and state taxes, if your state has an income tax. The one nice thing there is you're not facing the FICA taxes that you paid while you were working, but everything else is coming out of those IRAs.
And Roth IRAs should be tax-free after the money's been in for 5 years. The guide this month is titled Retirement Tax Efficiency. 2 different ways to request it. First, by calling 800-393-4001. Second way is by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or visit ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Changes to Medicaid occur almost every year, and if you're not informed, your assets could be at risk, especially if you or your spouse need nursing home care. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law, and their new guide is called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll help you understand the Medicaid process, which is critically important if you're retired or getting close to retiring. The guide has important information regarding numerous strategies that can protect your assets from the nursing home. It could be your primary home, a vacation home, or any rental property you may own. You've worked hard to achieve wealth, so don't take chances when it comes to protecting it. Get your copy of Cushing & Dolan's brand new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Call right now, 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Enjoy the sun-splashed beaches on St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and wake up every day to 75-degree temperatures, sand between your toes, and the finest cuisine anywhere in the Caribbean. The U.S. Virgin Islands is more popular today than it's ever been in its history, making it one of the most popular travel destinations around. This summer, heat is upon us, but the holiday season will be here before you know it. So make your plan to avoid the cold and enjoy the most fantastic spot in the Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com right now and explore their incredible vacation packages today. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip right now. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
A little bit after 11 here, it's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you. The big news of the day continues to be the CrowdStrike outage. Or rather, the CrowdStrike, it's not their outage, they basically caused outages on a bunch of computers worldwide that are still affecting a whole bunch of different things. I've been going back and forth with a number of friends on this just to see like what they're running into and where the problems are. As an example, I have someone who's trying to pay their homeowner's insurance right now, and their card was just declined, and the credit card company, their phone lines and email lines are all or their online chat things are all full with 2-hour waits.
Yep.
So basically the guy can't pay his homeowner's insurance today.
Okay.
I have another one who is trying to move money from a brokerage account to a bank account, and the functionality to do that is not working right now. So can't move money from one pool of money to the other. So these are things that are affecting the banking system. As I mentioned earlier, at least earlier in the day, Mass General Brigham, the largest hospital and basically medical provider in Massachusetts, had canceled all elective and non-emergency procedures for this morning because they have been having issues with their back-end systems. So you got stuff happening all over the place. We've talked about airlines, the cancellations, and basically the hard ground stop that you had for all of the major U.S. airlines overnight. It's still messy out there. It's going to take probably the better part of the day to resolve a lot of these, and you probably won't have full and final resolutions until over the weekend. So if you do know anyone who works in IT, please don't schedule anything with them for the next several days because they'll probably be dealing with this and they'll want to talk to you, but they won't have the time to be courteous to you.
Yeah, they'll be pulling their hair out. I appear to be able to get into the IRS's website, although I don't have my phone on me to get through multi-factor authentication right now. So that seems to be up and running at the moment.
What did you say seems to be up and running?
IRS.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. They can still
take my tax payments?
Well, it's unclear if they can actually do that.
Right. I haven't actually tried to process a tax payment because I don't owe any right now.
That's good. That's good. Let's talk about Netflix. They reported earnings after the bell yesterday, and overall, pretty good earnings quarter. They beat on all of the metrics that you would like to see them beat on. The stock in after hours yesterday was down a couple percent. It's now up about 1.5%, so not too much movement here for the company. And overall, they continue to do well. But doing well was not enough to be able to move the stock in any meaningful way because the stock had also rallied pretty significantly over the course of the year so far, up 32%, and even since the end of April, up about 20%. And so good news kind of priced in, I guess, is the message.
Yeah, and I think perhaps pricing in a bit of a slowdown here. So in the most recent quarter, they added over 8 million subscribers. That compares to 5.9 million during the same quarter previous year. Next quarter, what they're saying is, hey, look, we're going to be facing comps now that already had the impact of us cracking down on password sharing. So that was a lot of the gains they saw over the last 4 quarters was, hey, we started this password crackdown. That was in the fall of 2023. Next quarter, when they report earnings, they're going to be finally comparing to a quarter where they had already begun doing this and already begun seeing the impact. And so they're not quite anticipating as much year-over-year growth as they had been previously seeing over the last 4 quarters. So that is going to, like you said, kind of priced into the stock at this point. And I think where my eyes are shifting and where most eyes are shifting now, they continue to put out new original content, spend a lot of money, and they're still growing their user base. My question is, how well do they execute on advertising? It's a completely new game to them. They had to build out the entire unit to be able to begin doing it. And so, how are you doing with generating ad revenue? Are you showing blank screens to customers that are paying for the ad-supported tier because you can't sell the ads, or are you successfully, driving high-value advertising to your clients, or to your customers, rather?
And with Netflix on those quarterly subscriber ads, just to give you the last three-quarter trend, Q4 of last year, they added 13.12 million subscribers. Q1 of this year, they added 9.33. Q2 was 8.05. So that's kind of that three-quarter downtrend that you have now.
Yep.
And it sounds like that'll continue to slow. They did up their revenue growth forecast for the year from 14 to 15. They bumped it up to 14 to 15%, up from 13 to 15. So they think the low end is potentially higher. But again, a good quarter from Netflix, but that's kind of it. Again, they run a good business now. This is a company that several years back, 5-10 years ago, you'd point to them and you'd say, gee, what's their path to real profitability? How are they going to get cash flow positive? They've answered that stuff now.
They have. It's good.
They are. This is a company that, and I don't have the full data for the last year now, but they had a profit as of the end of Q1 of $6.4 billion over the previous 12 months. And really, before 2017, they didn't have any meaningful profit ever. They were kind of just, breaking even and kind of hanging out around there. Free cash flow, another metric where you look at and you say, okay, what's the situation? For much of the 2010s, they were in negative free cash flow. They were spending $2-3 billion a year net more than they were bringing in. Free cash flow right now, $6.9 billion over the last 12 months. So they're in a good spot right now. Can it continue is always the question that you ask with media companies, because the media landscape evolves so fast. But they're in a good spot right now, at least. They've answered those questions pretty resoundingly to this point right now.
Can I make just a general observation on social media advertising for a moment, which is not exactly what we're talking about. But, Chuck, you don't use Facebook. Do you use Instagram at all?
No.
Tucker, Facebook and Instagram?
Instagram.
I've been talking to a few people, and I felt this way individually, but I've spoken with a few other people, same kind of demographic as me in terms of income and families and stuff like that. And a few of us have all felt that Facebook's advertising has gotten significantly better over the last 3 years. And I don't know what to put my finger on there, but in terms of, I used to get advertised stuff that I had already bought just relentlessly. The targeting these days seems to be much more spot on, which is kind of scary to one degree, but I have found myself actually completing purchases on Facebook advertising, and the few other people that I talked to had the same experience. And I don't know what's shifting there, what they're getting better at, but it came at a time when they should have less information about me based on, well, not me, but others based on Apple's lack of sharing with Facebook now. And yet we both felt that, significant improvement in what they are delivering to me, and actually things that I might consider purchasing. In my case, it's mainly stupid things. I bought a button-down Bluey shirt off of Facebook advertising, but I did buy a button-down Bluey shirt that I get a lot of attention from for, kids age 4 to 10.
No, I have people in my social circle who have made Insta purchases, as we call them.
Yeah.
Targeted ads that succeeded, and they clicked through and bought a pullover or whatever it was.
But I was shopping for smokers for a period of time, and that's all Facebook was advertising to me. I bought one about a week after. I have not seen those same ads. They have by and large gone away and figured out that I am beyond that purchase and don't need to search for it anymore. Again, just slight improvements here and there that must be going to that bottom line.
My rule of thumb is if I see an ad for something that I just bought, I always click it.
Yeah.
Just to because I want the company to learn from it. And if I just let them keep showing it to me, they're not going to know, hey, there's no ROI on that advertising. So I click the ads that I've already seen just so that they know, yes, I'm wasting their money.
Yeah, just a good middle finger.
No, it's not a middle finger. It's just it's more of
it's kind of a middle finger, a little bit.
Let me waste your money for you.
No, it's not. It's more of a shot across the bow. It's
okay.
Pay attention to me. Don't just give me the same ads for something I just bought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Middle finger would be like if I return the item after buying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
After clicking the ads. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the Fed. We've also got trivia coming up right after this.
Tune in for Trivia, brought to you by Applebee's. Every day at 11:20 for your chance to win cool prizes. Text us at 617-362-1385 and use keyword Applebee's. Complete rules are available at financialexchangeshow.com. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I'm a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans, Department of Massachusetts. The DAV does incredible work, and it was one of the first organizations I became familiar with after my military service ended in 1984. As I built my company, Veterans Development Corporation, I did it knowing that I'd be giving back to fellow vets who need jobs, support services, medical supplies, and much more. I work with disabled veterans every day, and is one of the key reasons why I'm such a big supporter of Dan Stack and the Disabled American Veterans, Department of Massachusetts, in this year's DAV 5K Boston. Please join me in supporting this tremendous cause by taking part in this year's event or by making a donation to the DAV.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Many of us have retirement savings that are held in tax-deferred accounts like 401ks and traditional IRAs. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. A heavy reliance on tax-deferred savings has significant implications, such as facing large tax bills during retirement. If you've been diligent about saving money, you might find yourself in the same situation after you retire. Our new guide this month is called Retirement Tax Efficiency. It outlines ways to develop a plan that helps you manage your retirement income and limit your tax liability, putting you in a more advantageous position for a secure financial future. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, and you can also request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Despite overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, time is running out for Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radio in cars. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have Debt Destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia is brought to you by Applebee's. Take your friends or family to any area Applebee's and enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m., including boneless wings, spinach and artichoke dip, and warm pretzels dipped in beer cheese. And don't forget to join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only. Continuing our Olympic trivia here today as we ramp up to the Olympic Games next week. At the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary, the world was stunned when a surprising nation entered the bobsled competition. The story of the Jamaican bobsled team inspired a 1993 movie starring John Candy in one of his final roles. Trivia question today. What was the name of the 1993 movie about the Jamaican bobsled team? Once again, what was the name of the 1993 movie about the Jamaican bobsled team? Be the 10th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. You'd win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and be registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's. Be sure to include the keyword Applebee's in your text, and we'll give away that Applebee's gift card in the next segment. 617-362-1385. And the 10th correct response will be our winner. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Feel the rhythm.
People everywhere, you know they can't believe Jamaica. We have a bobsled team. It's honestly one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's up there.
It's just, it's fantastic.
Top notch.
It does have what I think is probably one of my favorite 2 or 3 quotes in any movie, but I digress. Let's talk a little bit.
I'll accidentally say the name if we keep talking about it, so we got to move on.
Yes. Instead, let's talk about the Federal Reserve, which is not one of my favorite movies of all time. The Federal Reserve is talking pretty strongly now about cutting interest rates as soon as September. That's kind of what they're signaling. Remember, this is the organization that has to talking about cutting rates before they actually talk about cutting rates.
Indeed.
So, for the July meeting, which is coming up in about a week and a half, it's on the 31st of July, the projections right now on the CME Fed Funds Futures tool look like there is a 4.7% chance of a rate cut then. So, market not pricing much in for the July meeting. However, if you take a look at September, it's now a 98% chance that there is going to be a rate cut there. And further cuts are projected at the November and December meetings. And so you get to a point where you say, yeah, it's looking pretty likely that the Fed has cut interest rates by 0.75% by the end of the year. Now, remember, for the last couple of years, markets have been predicting that the Fed's going to cut interest rates as well. And they've been wrong. So
Correct.
Just because it's projected out by the market does not make it a reality. The key difference now is that in 9 of the last 12 months of data that we have on inflation, it's been pretty good. And that's not something that you could say at any of those other points in time when the market was expecting rate cuts. Your thoughts, Mike?
I was wondering, Chuck, I mean, we've talked about the possibility of a surprise in July. I'm kind of putting that away. This Federal Reserve has done everything in its power to not surprise at a meeting. And yes, I think they could be wrong about their 3-cut forecast for the rest of this year, but when it comes to something this close, I don't think they have any chance of cutting and surprising people at the end of July. What are your thoughts right now?
I thought that they may want to just because they don't like the optics of starting a cutting cycle in September so close to an election, but it's pretty clear from the signaling that they're doing. They're kind of saying, yeah, we're not going to cut in July, and we're totally cool going in September if we have to.
Yeah, seem to be pointing in that direction. Yesterday you did get some slightly weaker jobless claims, but at the same time that happened during the Hurricane Barrel as well as the everything going on with auto dealerships, so I don't think that they're going to take that as a signal that they might have to go earlier. But it's very clear now that the Federal Reserve has shifted its focus, at least privately, to the labor market instead of purely focused on inflation at this stage. And so we'll see. I mean, again, it's not as though Jerome Powell is going to come out and say that, but what you're going to see is slight changes in language when describing the labor market. I don't remember the exact terms he used to describe it previously, but going from a very strong labor market to maybe just a strong labor market would be your insinuation that, hey, they're pretty focused here and worried about that risk of recession rather than purely the inflationary risk.
Mike, a piece in the Wall Street Journal. Banks are offering bigger cash bonuses to move your checking and savings accounts now than they have in previous years. It asks the question, should you switch or not?
And why now? Honestly, with a lot of these promotions, it can be a lot of work to change your bank account. And so read the fine print because, yes, a one-time promotional rate on a savings account might be nice, but if they automatically bring you back down to 0.1%, like whatever bank did that to Chuck and he got really upset about, that's not necessarily worth the effort of changing everything around. Oftentimes, these same bonuses will come with minimum cash deposits or minimum amount of debit or credit card transactions or all sorts of things, perhaps limitations on how many times you can move money back and forth. So really important to read the fine print. Obviously, we've been spending the last year and a half talking about, hey, if you have dead cash, you should be looking at other options because there are really great other options. But just be wary of promotional options that end up running out in a short period of time. Likewise, anything right now that's giving you the best possible rate is very likely a short-term rate by definition, right? It might be the best possible option is a savings account with a high interest rate. We just talked about how the Fed is likely to start moving rates downward later this year. The very first impacted item there would be something like a savings rate that is tied to the Fed funds rate.
Yeah, and the other thing just that helps me think through some of these different offers, remember that if you have a bank account that's earning interest, what they do is they pay you interest. I know that sounds basic, but just hear me out on this for a second. If a bank says, hey, we'll give you $200 to open a checking account, but you got to keep it there for 3 months and maintain a balance of $20,000, okay, you do the math out and you say, okay, they're paying me $200 on that balance for 3 months. That's $800 a year. That's a 4% interest rate. If I'm getting more than that, it doesn't necessarily make sense to switch because really the fixed amount they're paying you, you can figure it out in terms of, kind of the maximum interest rate also by thinking through it in those terms. So I think it's important to remember that, hey, that's what interest payments are. It's money that a bank gives you for keeping your money there. And just because another bank is saying we'll give you X to open the account, if you're currently earning interest on an account elsewhere, you've got to compare those and make sure that you're not doing anything that doesn't make financial sense, actually.
Best bank promotion I've ever gotten, Chuck, when I bought my most recent home, the bank was offering, I think it was 5 basis points lower on the 30-year mortgage rate for every 5% of the mortgage balance that I deposit at their bank with 0 requirements to keep it there long term.
Oh, that's interesting. It's better than a set of steak knives.
Much better than a set of steak knives. And I have a permanently lower mortgage at a bank that I no longer have deposits at.
And now you can afford steak knives.
I can. Yeah. Bought me many more steak knives that method.
It's great news. Taking a look at markets as we head towards the bottom of the hour. The Dow's down 375 points. S&P down 27. NASDAQ down 93. So more red on the board today. Quick break. We're back after this with the trivia answer.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about techniques that can help protect your assets from long-term care expenses last minute. Todd, is the healthy spouse allowed to keep anything when the sick spouse enters a nursing home? And what happens if the sick spouse has the majority of the income?
Great question, because when you're talking about applying for Medicaid last minute, or when someone enters a nursing home and you want to do this last minute, they're going to look at both assets and income, right? So from an asset standpoint, as a married couple, they do allow you to keep approximately $148,000. That piece is indexed for inflation or changes every year. The sick spouse is allowed to keep $2,000. So you're around $150,000 of total assets that you can keep. By the way, if you're single, you only get to keep $2,000 in assets. From an income perspective, the good news is that the healthy spouse can keep all of the healthy spouse's income, Social Security, pension, you name it. And so it does not matter how much income the healthy spouse has, but they are entitled to at least a minimum monthly maintenance needs allowance, but no maximum.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details last-minute Medicaid eligibility. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That number again is 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
There are many factors to consider when planning for your retirement, including the importance of your tax liability. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Reducing tax liability can be potentially more effective than chasing higher investment returns. If you are nearing retirement and need to understand how to help your investment approach and limit your tax liability, call us at 800-393-4001 and request our new guide called Retirement Tax Efficiency. We'll educate you on ways to create a tax-efficient strategy, as well as the basic steps that make up a sound retirement plan, including how to protect your money in a down market. Call 800-393-4001 and get your guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, what was the name of the 1993 movie about the Jamaican bobsled team? That's Cool Runnings. Cool Runnings was released in 93, starring John Candy and Leon, and amazingly grossed over $150 million at the box office. Two winners to announce today. Winner of the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt was Shane down in Nantucket, and the weekly winner of the $100 gift card to Applebee's was John from Woonsocket, Rhode Island. So congrats to both winners there. And trivia is brought to you by Applebee's. Enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m. and join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only.
Isn't Woonsocket just a great town name?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah.
Great name. Let's talk a little bit about these couple stories we have on tips and what's going on there. First, in the state of Massachusetts, there is a ballot question that's going to be up for grabs, I guess, this November. It is whether to raise the state-tipped minimum wage to $15 an hour. So
which
basically
is
raising
the
it
state
to
minimum
be.
wage.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, you were going to say it, but that's the equivalent to the actual state minimum wage for all other non-tipped jobs.
Yes, this bill would allow tips to be shared with back of the house non-tipped workers like dishwashers and cooks within the state as well. Now, this was originally objected to by the Massachusetts Restaurant Association. They pulled that objection yesterday after they said, okay, the signatures that were on this petition are actually legitimate. But they also have conducted a survey, which, again, you take with a grain of salt because it's their survey, not the survey done by the workers, but said that 91% of servers who responded prefer the status quo to this. Your thoughts on this piece first, Mike?
I mean, my feeling is we have a pretty decent system for how I think most servers get paid in this state, and I don't know what this is going to do to that system. I don't know if you're a restaurant owner, if you're just going to say, all right, we're doing away with gratuity, we're doing a flat 10% mandatory gratuity. It's going to add a lot of confusion.
Because here's the thing, if you have to pay workers like that $15 an hour no matter what, you might just say, okay, it's going to be $15 but no tips, but then how do you instruct your diners not to pay tips?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be confusing. I'm sure we could figure it out, but I don't know. I don't really see it as a huge necessity, although I will admit that I've seen people polling and getting signatures on this issue, and from what I have overheard, most people that I hear are like, oh, I didn't even realize that restaurant workers don't get minimum wage. And it comes down to a lot of confusion about the issue because they are, in fact, required to be paid minimum wage once you add up tips plus this other lower wage. So I don't know how that's going to change things, but can we talk about the idea of no taxes on tips for a moment here?
Yes.
So this is a Trump campaign, I'm not going to say it a campaign pledge, but a campaign discussion that's been gaining a lot of traction. And I have to step in
New
here.
York Times calls it a pledge.
Yeah, okay. So whatever you want to call it, this is a really, maybe a good-intentioned idea, but a really bad idea in my personal view. So, one, what about when we require tips? So, okay, I understand if I give the moving guy $50 as a tip, they may or may not declare that on their income tax return. What if I'm at a restaurant and they have a mandatory 18% gratuity? Is that going to be taxed? What if this does get passed and all of a sudden no taxes on tips are due at all? What do you think is going to be the first thing that's going to happen in a bunch of quote-unquote creative industries, Chuck, by which I mean like hedge funds and accounting?
We're going to pay you less and you're getting all tips.
If I'm an accountant, I am setting a $150 return fee and a mandatory 100% gratuity.
Right?
Furthermore, do you want a really good way to make the problems with Social Security and Medicare even worse? Then stop collecting payroll taxes on tips. That'll make the situation a lot worse in that case. So I don't know why we're suddenly infatuated with this idea. I'm guessing it's because we have gotten so far away from cash in the way that we do business. And for servers now, they weren't getting taxed on tips because they were just illegally not declaring the tips as income. And now it's all paid via digital. And so it shows up on your 1099 and it's a lot less difficult. It's a lot more difficult to dodge those taxes. But I just, if you think it through a little bit further beyond that change that's occurred over the last decade, it's going to create more problems than it's going to solve here, folks. And I would just be I would push back on the idea a little bit because it's going to create more problems.
Right. Look, if you want to improve the tax situation for, tipped workers or low-wage workers, let's do that in a way that, think about what this also does from a labor perspective in terms of How does it shift the labor market so that more people are trying to get into tipped wage, occupations instead of untipped?
It just means that we're going to tip for everything. Because every individual is going to want to receive their income in tips, and so
it's going to get worse.
It is, yeah. It would make
it's going to
things
get worse.
So much worse. You're going to be expected to tip the flight attendants. You're going to be expected to tip everyone that you do business with that is in any sort of services industry. It's going to be terrible. You don't want this. Trust me, you do not want this. It's a really, really bad idea, and nobody's talking about the fact that it would make Social Security's problems worse.
Well, this is part of it that's unclear is would this, when we talk about not taxing tips, would the payroll tax be included in that non-taxation?
Right. If it does, then it makes Social Security worse. If it doesn't, then it's neutral.
Changes to Medicaid occur almost every year, and if you're not informed, your assets could be at risk, especially if you or your spouse need nursing home care. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law, and their new guide is called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll help you understand the Medicaid process, which is critically important if you're retired or getting close to retiring. The guide has important information regarding numerous strategies that can protect your assets from the nursing home. It could be your primary home, a vacation home, or any rental property you may own. You've worked hard to achieve wealth, so don't take chances when it comes to protecting it. Get your copy of Cushing & Dolan's brand new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Can we make one other thing pretty clear, Chuck? Tips have always been taxable income. Right?
Yeah.
There wasn't a point in time where you weren't supposed to declare tips as income. It's just that tips used to be heavily paid in cash, and it just made tax evasion a lot easier and more difficult to prosecute.
Yeah.
That's all that's changed. There's been no change to the tax code over the last 50 years in terms of how tips are treated compared to all of your other income. So I just had to make that point for a moment here.
Can we talk about Ken Griffin?
Sure.
So Ken Griffin, who runs Citadel Securities and is worth billions and billions of dollars, decided to do what every good billionaire does with that money and buy a Stegosaurus skeleton.
That's the most billionaire thing I've ever heard. And of course he's going to keep it in a public, free of charge museum somewhere, right?
I'd put that on the lawn. You kidding?
Right,
right out front.
You put that up for Halloween every year.
String up Christmas lights.
Oh, you got a 10-foot skeleton? I got a freaking Stegosaurus, man.
Yeah, cool. In your closed, gated community where no one's allowed
so here's the thing.
A mile and a half of you.
He paid $44.6 million for it.
It's a
Griffin
bargain.
It actually might be. Prices have gone up since the Stegosaurus was alive.
Yeah.
Inflation over a long time period is a real pain.
Dinosaur inflation.
But Griffin also, back in 2021, this is one of the ones that I remember. Do you remember the cryptocurrency that it was like, I forget what the term was, but it was this collective that was trying to bid on a first edition copy of the U.S. Constitution? And Griffin, just because he was so upset about everything going on with, remember everyone was upset about him because of the meme stocks and this, he was like, you know what? Screw you guys, I'm paying more than you guys raised. And so he paid $43 million for it. And he then, said, okay, I'm going to lend it to a museum, but again, he bought the thing. So he bought this Stegosaurus skeleton, and it was found by someone in Colorado. I guess this guy, Jason Cooper, who was a quote, commercial paleontologist.
Didn't know that existed.
I guess that means that he digs up dinosaurs and sells them, so this is kind of his MO to begin with. And look, I'm not someone who's, going to talk about the purity of, all dinosaur skeletons, because ultimately people dig up lots of stuff and keep it for themselves. I mean, Mike, how many people have granite countertops, and it's like, okay, that's just a rock that was in the ground too, and it used to be all kinds of different stuff, and now it's your counter. I'm not going to try to be all pure and everything like that, but it's much more, hey, you're a billionaire, and you could go and, again, whatever problems you want to solve on the planet, you could figure out how to do something with some of them, and instead you just bought a freaking dinosaur.
Yeah.
What? Do you really not have anything better to do with your time? And the answer is no, he doesn't.
Agreed, but Chuck, if we're going to spend all of our time criticizing the decisions of billionaires, like what's worse, buying a dinosaur or buying a mega yacht that,
Mega yacht, but I criticize that too.
Yeah, fair enough.
Again, I just... Look, Ken Griffin wouldn't know a stegosaurus from a diplodocus if they both, woke up and hit him in the head. It's just... That's bothersome to me, too. But I'm guessing he's not this dinosaur enthusiast.
He could strap the dinosaur at the bow of his yacht.
Now we're talking.
Okay, Tucker, now I'm intrigued.
Put a little captain hat on it.
Now I'm intrigued.
Big captain hat.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to rename the yacht, but I like where you're going with this finally. In this case, two wrongs do make a right.
Yeah.
First time in history, but I appreciate where your head's at. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Paul LaMonica, and we're going to be talking Amex and their earnings after this.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Tax-efficient retirement planning starts with taking proactive steps to minimize your tax burden while you still can. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and as you approach retirement, it's crucial to consider the impact of taxes on your future finances. This month, our new guide is called Retirement Tax Efficiency. In it, we cover a variety of key areas from Social Security and life insurance to capital gains tax rates and Medicare brackets. The guide is designed to help you build a solid retirement financial strategy that limits your tax liability. Get your free copy of our new guide, Retirement Tax Efficiency, by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can also request the guide online by visiting our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Enjoy the sun-splashed beaches on St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and wake up every day to 75-degree temperatures, sand between your toes, and the finest cuisine anywhere in the Caribbean. The U.S. Virgin Islands is more popular today than it's ever been in its history, making it one of the most popular travel destinations around. This summer, heat is upon us, but the holiday season will be here before you know it. So make your plan to avoid the cold and enjoy the most fantastic spot in the Caribbean. Go to visitusvi.com right now and explore their incredible vacation packages today. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip right now. That's visitusvi.com.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
If you or a loved one needs a nursing home stay and you aren't prepared, the expense can be devastating to your savings. Understanding the Medicaid process is a key element to any successful estate plan. So call Cushing & Dolan today and request their new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. It'll walk you through any changes to the Medicaid rules, how to adjust to those changes, and best practices that can help educate you on how to manage expenses you might incur down the road. Don't leave your assets to chance. Let the experts at Cushing & Dolan help you protect your wealth and keep it away from the nursing home. Call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free copy of this new guide, Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. That's 866-848-5699. You can also request the guide online by visiting their website, legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
There's an issue cutting through the partisanship in Congress. It's AM radio. The overwhelming majority of legislators, Democrats and Republicans, support a bill to keep AM radio in cars. But time is running out. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to the floor for a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play The Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect destination for your next vacation. Enjoy St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and enjoy pristine beaches, world-class dining, and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no passport required or money to exchange. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
As promised, we're now joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's, and we're going to be talking a little American Express with Paul. Paul, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How you guys doing?
Doing well. What are the expectations with Amex? What are we seeing in terms of kind of where the company is going these days?
Yeah, the earnings growth was very strong, and they lifted their profit outlook for the year, but the stock is down about 4%. So far this morning. I think, part of that is the broader market sell-off, but also, Amex shares were near an all-time high this week. They have done extremely well this year. So I wouldn't be so worried that Amex had any specific problems, if you will, in the quarter. I think some of the beat that, go jump over the bar to keep the stock going. And also the company did suggest that marketing spending is going to increase. So maybe that's something that weighs on profits down the road, and concerns about increased competition being a need to boost your marketing.
Amex has traditionally been thought of as targeting a higher-end consumer than companies such as a Visa. Is that still the case, where the companies that they partner with, for the branding and everything, tend to go more upscale as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Amex definitely still has that reputation as being the credit card that the affluent use. But make no mistake, Amex is broadening out. So my colleague, Rebecca Ungarino, who wrote about American Express earnings for the Barron site this morning, the CFO told her in an interview that you're seeing an uptick in spending from millennials and Gen Z consumers as well. So younger customers are using American Express cards, and that is something that I think might be surprising to a lot of investors, since there's all this talk about how younger consumers they're addicted to Venmo and what have you. But I think that you are still seeing wealthier younger consumers also using American Express cards, and that bodes well for future customer growth, revenue growth, and profitability for the company.
Any significant problems that they're seeing with the business, or any things that's cause for concern at the moment?
Again, I think that the increased marketing expenses is potentially a concern. I mean, I think that clearly Amex has tough competition already from the likes of Visa and MasterCard and their networks. Capital One is a company that potentially would get stronger as it tries to buy Discover Financial Services. So that's something that I think Amex has to look out for. And then again, fintech is not something to be discounted. There is a shift clearly to younger consumers using Square, Block-owned Cash App, as well as Venmo, owned by PayPal. A lot of these buy now, pay later services like Affirm are gaining in popularity. I don't think that necessarily negates the need for traditional credit card companies like Amex, but it is a dynamic that bears watching, and is something that investors need to be cognizant of.
Very good. Paul, appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much for the time. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. That is Paul LaMonica from Barron's talking about American Express.
Chuck, I found the one area where people are going to be more pissed off about the CrowdStrike outage than flights getting canceled.
What is it?
Starbucks. People are ordering coffee on their apps, showing up at the Starbucks, and the labels aren't printed. The payment processing isn't working. They cannot get their coffee. There's going to be some, sorry to my sister-in-law whose name is Karen, but Karen outrage, male and female, all over Starbucks today. So be careful if you're heading to one.
Just on an unrelated note, I happened to go see the new Twisters movie last night.
Oh.
I never saw the original one, so.
What do you do with your kids?
You should see the original. You should. What do you mean with his kids? His kids weren't alive in 1994.
What do you do with your kids?
Mine?
How do you go to a movie on Thursday night? This is novel to me.
They're not home right now. They're at the in-laws with my wife's up visiting them in New Hampshire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Good for you.
it's great.
Sorry.
So I went out and I caught a movie. It was lovely. But the new one, pretty darn good. Not in terms of sequels, it doesn't reach the Top Gun Maverick levels from 2022, which might have even exceeded the original in my opinion.
D2 Mighty Ducks, not quite there.
No, but a solid but unspectacular movie that really just does well. Good fun, and it's 2 hours, so you're not going to be there for all night or anything like that. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just had to say, and it's great. We're done for the day and the week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday again on the Financial Exchange.